Welcome everyone to another episode of Kiwi Talks. I have in the studio with me an expert on cryptocurrency, I'd say. He's a seminar speaker, investor, and he does some foundation work for Digibyte.
Correct.
Yes. I'd like to welcome Josiah Spackman. How you doing?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
That's right. That's right. So tell me how you got into all of this.
Well, as a friend told me back in late 2013, they basically said to me, look, there's a way that you can print... Do you want me to adjust that?
Yeah. Cheers.
He said to me back in 2013, he says, there's a way that you can print money with your computer. And I thought to myself, I was like, are you freaking kidding? Like, that's... Nobody prints money but the government.
Yes.
And they do a lot of that at the moment, especially in America.
Yes.
No, but he said to me, you can use your graphics card and you can, like... make bank. I thought, okay, all right, I'll give this a whirl.
Yeah.
I gotten into Bitcoin back then a little bit, just a small amount. But due to changes in the way that things were going at the time, I was no longer able to do it profitably. I made I think it was $2 worth of Bitcoin over the course of a week, and so I'm kind of going, well, this is pointless. This sucks.
Yeah.
And I basically stopped. I thought nothing more of it. That was 0.1 of a Bitcoin that I made back then. And
what year was this, sorry?
It was at the end of 2013, so start of 2014.
Right.
So back then, 0.1 of a Bitcoin would have been worth $2. And
How much is it worth at the moment?
It's worth a lot more.
Yeah.
So one Bitcoin right now is worth somewhere in the vicinity of... I think it's like 11 grand New Zealand, something like that. So that 0.1 would have been worth $1,100. And I'm going, damn, I should have stayed doing it.
Yeah.
So I got back involved a little bit more in 2017, kind of helping out more. I came across Lightcoin and then I came across Digibyte and got invested that way more in terms of an involvement rather than a monetary investment so much. Like, I'm just a poor dude from Auckland, but...
Everyone's poor in Auckland.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So what is the difference between, say, Litecoin and Bitcoin?
Right.
And Digibyte?
Yeah. So the key differences with Bitcoin versus Litecoin, for example, is Litecoin is 4 times faster and has a 4 times the maximum supply. So unlike with the US dollar where the government can just go, we're just going to start printing money out the money printer today.
Yeah.
The supply is capped with Bitcoin at 21 million. So once we've got our 21 million Bitcoin, there will never be any more. Now that's divisible to 8 decimal places, so you can have 0.0000001 of a Bitcoin kind of thing and still be able to think of it like cents in the dollar, basically.
Yeah.
Litecoin has 4 times the maximum supply. It's 4 times faster. So it's a nice little kind of iterative jump. With Digibyte, I've got a lot more involved on a personal level, and we are 40 times faster than Bitcoin with 1,000 times maximum supply. The idea being that rather than, if I wanted to pay you for some pizza kind of thing, instead of me giving you 0.000017, whatever, I just give you like 5 Digibyte or something like that.
Right.
It's a lot easier kind of when you're doing mental gymnastics.
So how do you determine the speed?
So the speed is, the idea behind it is that every 10 minutes with Bitcoin, we take all of the transactions that are all currently waiting to be, I suppose, verified and validated.
Yeah.
And we stamp them into what's known as a block. This is why it's called a blockchain. We have a chain of these blocks. So every 10 minutes, anything that is currently pending, all of the transactions and things get basically bundled up together and put into this block. With Bitcoin, that happens every 10 minutes. With Digibyte, this happens every 15 seconds, the idea being that 15 seconds is kind of like the upper limit of what you can safely do in terms of getting the data around the world, verified, back again, that sort of thing as well. So
Right. Okay. Because what my understanding is of cryptocurrency is it can be quite volatile.
yes.
Yeah. So that's correct. Do you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So we woke up, I think it was actually last week, and I go to bed, and sometimes before bed I'll have a nosy at the price. I don't normally, but a friend of mine sent me a message, and he's like, look, it's been relatively steady for the last week. And I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. All right then. And woke up the next morning, and everything had lost like 25 to 35%. Like worse than stocks kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when the stocks come out and they're like, we lost 7-8% today. I'm kind of going, it's a good day then.
yeah.
But the same thing happens, like we went up 40% yesterday. So at the moment, it's the Wild West. It really is.
So it really fluctuates.
Yeah,
and obviously we do have to talk about the coronavirus and the COVID-19.
Yep.
How has it affected the cryptocurrency world?
For the most part, things just carry on. So in terms of when you are a miner and you're doing this validation and the verification of these transactions and things every 10 minutes and you're bundling them all up together, that's just your computer working away. Like, you don't have to be a bank teller standing there taking like cash off of somebody and kind of looking at it going, oh, you sneezed on that before and now you're worried you're going to catch yourself a virus. It just ticks along. It really has. So Bitcoin started in 2009, so going on over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And it just keeps ticking, every 10 minutes. Yep.
Can you explain to me, and obviously the audience, what exactly blockchain is?
Right. So blockchain is the name of the technology. So in terms of Bitcoin is the culmination of maybe 40 years of cryptographic research. Right. And so all of these little components have been around before. This is simply at the right time, the right brains kind of got together and figured out the right sort of things so that if I'm going to give you money, we need some kind of a way without any kind of like central banking authority to also know that I can't give that same money over here to a mutual friend of ours, for example, or go buy some, jeans or something at the same time as I'm trying to give you that money. That's what we call a double spend. And so Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain is a solution to the double spend problem, meaning that without any kind of central authority like a bank, we know with certainty that there is me sending you money and not me also sending money over here at the same time. And so the blockchain is basically a record of all of these transactions. It's a chain. So it says, I sent you some money, you then sent some money over here, and it's a complete historical record for the last 10 plus years worth. There's obviously some concerns, especially with what's going on like in America and things like that the government might eventually use this to start figuring out what people are buying and from where and from who and things like that. But innately it is pseudo-anonymous. So currently, yeah.
And that I suppose part of that is because it's stored on so many different computers, right? That's why they say it's not hackable.
Well, yeah, so sort of with the anonymity, if I'm going to pay you money, you generate a new address.
Yeah.
And I would pay this address. Now, there's nothing directly that relates you to this unique. It's a string of letters and numbers. So if you know like how you've got like in the Matrix just those screens of like green ticks flowing past?
Yeah.
That's basically what a Bitcoin address looks like for all intents and purposes as far as most people are concerned. It looks just like that. There's no way for me to go, right, that's your address. I know that is you. Unless you start getting into certain advanced cryptographic things. And even then, it's still not entirely certain that I can go and say, this is your address. This is you. I know that you've gone and you spent money and this $39 at the hotel that you bought late one night, that kind of thing. You can't directly figure that sort of thing out unless someone starts telling you, and I say to whoever, right, this was me making this purchase. This was me going here to McDonald's and doing this.
Okay.
So it is by nature pseudo-anonymous, but you can do things to like show people that you made a transaction, for example.
Okay, so it is possible.
Yeah. So I think the main thing, though, is especially like at the moment we're seeing in America, the money printer, they're printing trillions of dollars every single day. You can't do that with Bitcoin. The supply is capped at 21 million Bitcoin, and once they're all there, they're all there. There's no more. You can't make more.
But so, who sets that limit?
That limit was set when the protocol was originally created back in 2009. So it was semi-arbitrary, to be honest. And same for Digibyte. The reason that we chose 21 billion was because we wanted something that was going to be slightly more spendable in a daily basis. The idea that you don't have to own 0.0001 of a Bitcoin. You could just own a couple of Digibyte, for example. Yeah.
Is it possible to purchase a lot of things these days with Bitcoin or
and
various other cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is It's got a way to go. So there are people who live what they call like off the grid. They are unbanked.
Yeah.
And you can do a whole lot of stuff with it. So you can go and survive just on Bitcoin. There's been a number of people. I actually did a podcast with a gentleman, and he hasn't actually had a bank account or a credit card or cash in, I think it's 3 years now. 3.5 years.
Wow.
So I don't know about you, but every time you rock up at McDonald's and you're used to just basically, you whip out your card, tap and go, and that's it. He hasn't had a credit card or anything, or an EFTPOS card or cash for 3.5 years. Like that's.
So how
he has to shop at certain places, obviously, because not everywhere takes it.
You can't buy any McDonald's with Bitcoin yet?
Not at the moment. There's, I know, for example, though, that in Venezuela, so we've done some philanthropic work in Venezuela, and they talk about certain areas there where a lot of stores will accept cryptocurrency, both person to person, as well as in their, like the EFTPOS terminals. You can get certain terminals that will literally just allow you to tap your phone or scan a QR code, just like you would for like WePay, Alipay, that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that'll ever happen here?
I mean, it's funny because I was in Burger King the other day. Man, I'm talking a lot about fast food.
That's okay.
I was in Burger King the other day, right?
Yeah.
And in Takapuna, and this gentleman was clearly Canadian. You can tell because he's super apologetic, and he's got that almost American accent, and he's lovely as hell. And he says to this lady, like, so it was going slow as hell in Burger King. And he turns to this other lady and he says, "I've not seen anybody pay with cash, and I've been here now for 15 minutes."
Mm.
And I'm thinking to myself, as like, that's really quite a stark contrast. Like, if you show up at the drive-thru at McDonald's, certainly at our one in Te Aratu, they just hold the terminal out the window. And if you want to pay by cash, they kind of look at you and they're like, "What are you?"
Cash? What's that?
No, thank you.
It's like a foreign
it's so
foreign
funny.
thing.
But in America, it's obviously very different.
Yeah.
It's so it like, say, for example, in New Zealand, would we ever get to that point? Yeah, hell yeah, we could. It's not that different in terms of, if you, like, a lot of people have their iPhone and they'll just tap and pay
Paywave.
with, all of that sort of thing. In New Zealand, we're surprisingly technologically savvy for the most part.
Yeah, we tend to be more on the EFTPOS side, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever carry cash, or hardly ever. Yeah.
I hate it. I mean, so here's my wallet. It's this tiny little. There's 2 cards in there and a driver's license.
You don't want to see my wallet.
Yeah.
It's over there.
Yeah.
It's that big brick.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But it has no money. It's just all cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So because there are some countries that are going, I think Switzerland. Is it Switzerland or Sweden? One of them are wanting to go cashless.
Yeah, and there's certainly merit to it.
Yeah, well, some people are very anti, going cashless and everything being digital because it's easier to trace.
Yes.
Yeah, and people don't want to be traced.
Well, so here's the really funny thing as well, and this is probably one of the more common arguments that we get is, why would I want to use, like, you get it from, like, you know how you see all those things like the senators and stuff, and they're sitting there and they're interrogating Mark Zuckerberg, and they're like, you need to turn off the internet. You know those kind of people, right?
Yeah.
They're all like, Bitcoin is only used for buying drugs on Silk Road. And it's like, well, actually, if you look at it statistically, they reckon that the number one both laundered currency in the world, as well as currency that is used for purchasing illicit materials, like, no matter where on the spectrum you agree with what should or should not be decriminalized, legalized, whatever, is the US dollar. The US dollar is by far the number one illicit currency for all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, so it's kind of funny because it's that argument that they use, and they say, well, it's, Bitcoin's only used for buying illegal drugs. Use the US dollar. Well, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Why would you use US dollar? I mean, especially, like, let's be honest. So if I'm going to, let's say, for example, I've got a $20 note in my wallet. I don't, because I only have EFTPOS. But if I were to take that note and give it to you, nobody else in the whole wide world knows. Nobody.
Yeah.
But if I were to fire up my phone and say, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send you some Digibyte, your phone goes ding. Cool. We can, like, publicly verify that transaction happened. I don't know that it went from me to you. Well, I do, because obviously I sent you the money.
Yeah.
But somebody else who's watching, who has a computer, who's got a node, who is looking on the blockchain, they can see that the transaction took place.
But they can't see between who.
Correct. So it is basically like a random string of letters and numbers, and unless you specifically know, right. So if I were to, let's say I give you this $10, I could then potentially see where that $10 goes in future, and maybe it gets mixed with like $100 or something. And now we're going, okay, so maybe you've paid $100. Oh, that's probably not rent. I mean, we're in Hamilton, rent's kind of cheap, but no, it's not going to be. What's $100 might be gas. Okay, so maybe this has gone to a gas station, for example. And you can do some extrapolation in certain things, but it is literally random string of letters and numbers. There's no way to tell who it is.
Well, I suppose that makes sense because that's why the government, they would want control, obviously. They want to know all these things, I suppose that comes back to the surveillance argument, You need surveillance to protect us, but it's also an invasion of privacy at the same time.
Yes.
I mean, China is a perfect example of this.
Yeah, apparently now. So in China, I was reading, and I hate going back to COVID-19 and everything at the moment, but because of that, because everybody over there is wearing masks, so they're covered like from this down.
Yeah.
In China, apparently with the latest breakthroughs, I read this yesterday, they reckon that they can still get an 85% accurate match on who is behind the mask, using a whole lot of things, like especially because of the Hong Kong protests.
Yeah.
They can use even like what your ear shape looks like. So people were originally just wearing the surgical masks, hooking them over their ears.
Yeah.
But now apparently you can use the whole artificial intelligence, facial recognition, all that sort of stuff to notice who somebody is based on their ear shape. How crazy is that?
That is really crazy. And it's scary at the same time.
Yeah. The whole, Orwellian government 1984 rah-de-rah, like it's...
Because have you watched Black Mirror?
No.
Dude, I think you'd enjoy it because you seem like a tech guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is an episode where pretty much you can pay for purchases through your social ranking system.
Right.
So if you've got a lot of likes, then you have a better score. So therefore you can purchase items, higher items.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah,
it sounds terrible.
It is terrible, but what actually happened is that released prior to China making it a thing because there's a social ranking system within China.
Correct.
So a lot of this stuff is future technology in the works and stuff. You'd probably, I reckon you'd really enjoy it. I can't remember if there's anything specifically to like money. I think that social credit one was probably the most obvious one.
That's what they've got over there. And so there are certain times where, like, let's say, for example, you are caught like dropping litter or you spit on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's illegal over there. And if someone notices you, they dob you in or there's cameras, whatever, your credit, not social credit as in like Facebook likes and things, but your social credit within their community gets basically taken down a notch. And so you either have to do certain things, like you have to donate to a charity, for example, or you have to go and literally buy your way out of this, or otherwise you can't catch a plane. You have to take the lower end trains rather than like the fast travel or whatever, stuff like that. And so that's scary as shit, man.
It is. And I think there are some pros and cons to that, obviously, because of their mass surveillance and because they're so authoritarian and they can control everything.
Yeah.
That's probably how they were able to contain COVID-19 somewhat compared to how Europe and America are now.
It's a free-for-all in Italy at the moment, and even America is only just starting to see like the curve of like really ramp up. It's crazy.
Yeah. So how does it work in terms of companies creating their own coin? Because I've heard so that a company could make a coin and then they do like pump and dump schemes.
Yep.
So they use all their people to, build up the worth of it, and then they convince investors and then they sell it.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different ways that happens. So one of them is through what's known as an ICO. So you've heard of like when you launch a company, you've heard of an IPO.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing. You go, I've got this great idea and we're going to go and raise funds. We're going to raise capital through an ICO, an initial coin offering.
Okay.
With this ICO, the idea, like what traditionally happened, this is what kind of caught a lot of people out towards the tail end of 2017 when we saw Bitcoin going to like 30 grand in New Zealand sort of thing. The when you are making a product, for example, with an ICO, you are selling a pipe dream. You're selling an idea. Most of them have absolutely nothing that actually works to begin with, and you are effectively, think of it kind of like Kickstarter in a company. So you know how you go and you'll sign up and you'll join Kickstarter, and people are like, I've got this board game and it's going to be great. We're going to call it Exploding Kittens, and sometimes you actually get what you've gone and paid money for, and that's cool, and everybody's happy. Other times, though, like most startups, even with blockchain, with these ICOs and cryptocurrencies, startups fail, and we've seen that happen a lot. Like 95% of them, like the startups, will fail in the crypto
I didn't know
space.
it was that statistic, but
yeah,
okay.
it's pretty bad. So if you are like, that's the thing. Like, so what that does happen. So let's say, for example, I've got 100 of these coins in total, and I'm going to make my slice of the pie is going to be 100.
Yeah.
I might keep, because I'm starting this ICO or whatever, I might opt to keep 30% of that. So I might then put a further 25 into, let's say, for example, marketing. I might put a further 10 into development because I'm a stingy ass and I know that it's probably not going to go anywhere. And then I might put I might sell 30% to my mates, and then I might take 10% and sell that to the general public.
Right.
And that's where a lot of those pump and dumps happen. And so that's why you've got to kind of be really careful if you are out there and you're looking at these kind of things, because they are appealing, especially when people go, oh, that's a really great idea. And you read this white paper and it's got all this fancy technical jargon and you go, oh, I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds great. The most common one is peer-to-peer YouTube. So, for example, YouTube demonetizes people all the time. You've got your YouTube channel here, and if you say something that they don't like, YouTube can go, nope, you've got 3 strikes and you're gone. Or maybe they don't even give you 3 strikes. Maybe they're just like, you know what, see you later.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying for some people, especially if they make their living off of it. So when certain people say, well, I want to start a project and we're going to do a peer-to-peer, like me to you to anybody else, video hosting site.
Right.
People go, oh, that's a really good idea. They can't take it down then. But if you think about it, when was the last time, like, so we're sitting here and we've got a MacBook on the table here, and what's the Wi-Fi coverage like out here?
It's pretty good.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of homes, you'll find, though, that, like, depending on where the people take their laptops, because most people don't have desktops, most people take the laptop, they'll sit on their bed. I can't imagine trying to download my video from some stranger's laptop. They've got terrible internet connection because they're sitting there with it on their bed and things like that. So when you stop and you kind of think critically about that sort of thing, you go, actually, me downloading my videos off YouTube is great because they've got data centers and they've got like servers and tons of servers all over the world. But me downloading from your computer might not get to me in time for me to watch my streaming video. If I'm watching like a video on YouTube, I don't have to worry about buffering. But if I'm going to watch it from your one, maybe you take your laptop and you walk just a little bit too far out of Wi-Fi coverage, and my computer's then got to switch and find somebody else. Like that's
Could that potentially change though if the area covered by a Wi-Fi signal expands?
Yeah,
and even with 5G, I suppose as well.
Yeah, entirely. So that's the kind of thing though. But when you're looking at an ICO and at face level, you go, a peer-to-peer video sharing site where you get rewards for that kind of thing, you're like, yes, this is a great idea. But then you stop and you go, actually, there's a lot of pitfalls to this, and they don't have anything working at the moment. And people will go, well, we've got BitTorrent. Everybody shares stuff through BitTorrent at the moment. BitTorrent's nice and fast.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, BitTorrent can be. It's also not supposed to be like a stream. You're not supposed to start at 1 and then 2, then 3, then 4. BitTorrent will grab the whole file and go, I want to grab piece 99, I want piece 37, and piece 54, and just grab it randomly wherever it can. So, yeah, it's...
Well, that's even how it works with YouTube, right? They don't store the entire video on like one server. They put it in so many different other places.
Yeah, it's more of a backups with YouTube though. So if one server happens to kick the bucket and the hard drive fails, all of a sudden we don't have people going, oh, YouTube lost my videos. That could be... Imagine that. Oh, I uploaded something yesterday, but go and watch it with your friends.
It's gone.
It's gone. Oh, could you imagine them trying to apologize to everybody? Yeah, so we're sorry to those people that were in Auckland that uploaded to the server. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
That makes sense, though. So what would stop you from creating your own coin?
Technically, nothing.
Technically nothing. Okay, so you could actually do it.
Yeah, you could do it as well. And in
Okay,
fact,
so even an amateur can do it.
yeah, look, there's this website where you could go to, and you can basically, so you'll go and you'll pick a name, and you'll call it, Reece Coin or something, Kiwi Talks. You get to pick how many there's going to be. Let's say there's going to be 1,000 of them, and then you might go and decide that you want to lock up a certain amount of them. They're just going to be for you, but you're only going to spend them after 12 months, so that other people know that you're not about to. It's not an immediate pump and dump at least. Yeah. So there are websites that you can go and you can do that, and basically you put in a little bit of you pay them in a bit of like Bitcoin or Ethereum, and they send it to your wallet, and they go, here you go, here's your cryptocurrency.
Easy as that.
And you've gone and made it. Yeah.
So so is there a particular reason why you haven't made your own coin then?
Yeah, I'm not about that, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I would rather so with Digibyte, it's been around for 6 years now.
Yeah.
And it's of all of the projects that have come and gone, and there's been a lot of them, there's still currently an estimated like 3,000 popular ones out there that have a market cap of at least like $1 million, for example.
Wow.
I would rather donate my time and my effort and my resources into something that is going to be here in a decade, in a century from now, rather than like, and that's the thing, is there are certain scammers who are out there who will go, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to make my own currency. And they do. And unfortunately, some people get suckered into it.
So how do you avoid not getting suckered in? What are the warning signs? The alarm bells. Red flags.
The first red flag is a promised guarantee of returns, just like any investment. So if I'm saying that I'm going to, like, you will get money, you will get returns, you will get gains, walk away. Just walk away. You will lose money.
Okay.
There's a really a common one in the cryptocurrency world called BitConnect. So
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's similar in sounding name to Bitcoin, not to be confused. So BitConnect is the source of so many great memes and things in the cryptocurrency world. And what happened was they would say, give us your Bitcoin, and using our AI trading bot, we will trade and make you money, and we guarantee you at least 1% per day. 1% a day. That's incredible. And so people, so it was basically this gigantic Ponzi scheme. So people are putting money in, and people are taking out mortgages on their house and things. And then one day it just all fell apart. And I think it was like January 2018, it all just completely fell apart. And there's videos of people, there was this really common one that got shared a lot, of this guy, and he's literally like sitting in his car, like this real big dude, looks like gruff and manly as hell, and he's bawling his eyes out. He's like, I remortgaged my house last month and put it all onto BitConnect.
Why would you do that, though? Why would you take that type of risk for something like that?
Yeah, well, he was promised 1% gains every day. So he's going, right, if I take out 100 grand US, okay, then I've got 101, then I've got 102, and then I've got, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And he's going, I'll do that for 6 months, and then I'll pay it all back, and I'll have some money, and I'll retire, and yay. So if people are promising you money, run away. Honestly, it's not worth it. It's really not. You might, that's the thing. There are people who do get lucky. Some of them get incredibly lucky, and they'll put a little bit of money in, and the price will go up 20, 30, 40%, and they'll take that money out, and they're good, and they just walk away.
Well, any type of investing is kind of a gamble in a way, isn't it? Yeah. So it's just weighing up the
your
risk.
KiwiSaver, exactly, is a bit of a gamble, which we've seen lately with people's, the value of their KiwiSaver decreasing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because the government's now going, please don't go and convert all your shit into a conservative. Just ride it out. Are you retiring in the next 3 to 5 years? No, just leave it. Just don't worry. You're just going to exacerbate the issue.
Yeah, well, the same with shares and index funds and things.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, that's pretty much everyone I know who's, I'd say, a veteran when it comes to investing. They're saying just ride it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't take it out at all.
Yeah. So that's your advice too. Do you only invest in cryptocurrency, or do you have a lot of money in a lot of different or your fingers in a lot of different pies?
No, I've got a tiny amount of Bitcoin, and I've got a little bit of Digibyte.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's only because I had to sell most of it for a deposit on a house.
Yes.
Because the housing market, especially in Auckland, sucks.
So you got a house in Auckland?
Yeah,
Dude,
it's a townhouse, so it's,
I'd give you a high five if it wasn't for the Corona thing. But
we've got to do the whole jazz hands or something.
Yeah. But congrats though, because that's quite a feat, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, so it was only made possible because of a deposit from my mother. Unfortunately, that came from the life insurance because my father passed away 2 years ago. But, so she had a little bit of money and she was like, look, I want to help you kids. I want you to get into a house. She's like, I'll put up a decent amount of a deposit.
Yeah.
So we had to go and we're selling off a bunch of other stuff. And unfortunately, in order for us to make ends meet, I had to sell like 10 grand worth of Digibyte, which was most of what I had. So,
well, you'll probably reap the reward.
Well, I mean, it's nice to be able to go to sleep at night and go, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is, because I've spoken to some people on the show about this, and they're like, I don't see the point in owning a house. I'm like, it's not even just the renting aspect. It's the fact that you don't want to get to 70 or whatever, retire. Well, you can't retire pretty much because you still have to pay someone else's mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely merit to that, but at the same time as well, there's an argument, I've seen a couple of them online, for the math behind owning a house. And they reckon that if you're renting, you are better off taking the money that you would have put into a house, investing that, you will get better returns to more than pay for your rent, and you can retire effectively off that. And potentially, in some cases, they reckon like a decade earlier. So an average mortgage in New Zealand is, 30 years?
Yeah, that's true.
So they reckon that you would have more up your sleeve effectively after 20 years compared to 30 with a mortgage.
It probably depends on where you're investing, and with stuff like COVID-19 not happening too often.
Yeah. Well, especially with the share prices.
Yeah. Well, everything's just tanking at the moment, right?
But that's an interesting kind of an interesting notion, because if I'm better off not buying a house now and I just have to rent it, the money that I would have taken for that deposit, I could put into a higher yield investment. Unfortunately, like the price of houses, especially in Auckland, they double in like a decade. So
yeah, well, the average house is $1 million, isn't it? I think I read in Herne Bay it's like 3.
Oh, damn, that's a lot of money. Oh man, like think of all the things that you could do with that $1 million.
Yeah, that's right. And I think and then you get some people that buy lotto tickets hoping for that win,
Well, I was talking with a friend, and he did some quick like back of the napkin math, and he was basically going, I've got 50 grand, 60 grand, whatever, to put towards the deposit on the house. Now I could do that, and I can reap the capital gains from buying a house, or I could take that money and put it into like a second tier lending, like the peer-to-peer lending solutions that we've got, I think, like Lending Crowd. Who's that other really big one as well? There's a couple of them. I don't remember. And anyway, long story short, what happens is they charge like 20% interest or something like that. So he figured that 20% interest off of that, he's better off putting the money into there and just reinvesting it every second year.
That's actually very smart.
He figured, he was like, why would I buy a house, pay capital gains on the house when I sell it, or I could take my deposit amount, do peer-to-peer lending. He said, I'm then helping other people out, and he gets more back himself. He's like, this seems like a win-win situation.
Because New Zealanders are very caught up in residential property. That's where a bulk of our investments are. Yeah.
So when I purchased my first property with my ex-wife, and we mortgaged 105% of it. This was on the tail end of the last financial crisis.
Right.
So it was a $285,000 house. We borrowed 300 grand.
Yeah.
Because we said to the bank, we're like, hey, okay, so we've got, we effectively had like zero deposit kind of thing.
Yeah.
We said to them, we want to also go and we want to do some stuff out. We want to fix up the fence. We want to redo the backyard. We want to put a nice deck out there. We want to sort out the concrete out the front. We want to do some repainting. And the bank's like, here, take the money. We literally borrowed over 100%.
There's no way you'd be able to do that now.
No way. It's ridiculous. But the really sad thing as well is, like, so we ended up getting divorced, sold the house. She did pretty well out of it, actually, because she ended up keeping the house. And I think by the time that she sold it, it had doubled in value in like under a decade.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Auckland's house prices skyrocketed over a period of 10 years. Yeah.
It's crazy. And the really hard thing as well is you look at people's disposable incomes. And I was actually talking with a friend of mine who was a mortgage broker. And he basically said that a lot of this happened when like my parents and his parents, when the mother basically started to work. She got a second job. So she got a job. It sounds really quite chauvinistic and really terrible, but the idea that all of a sudden there's now this additional freedom because the kids are no longer at home and women are now like empowered to basically be able to work and get a job and do whatever they want and follow their own dreams. So no longer are they just making money off of the father's wage and they're no longer on a single income, but all of a sudden they've got this literally 100% disposable income that they can go, what are we going to do with all this money? Because previously, like let's say, for example, my father made $500 a week. Of that $500 a week, maybe 200 went into rent, and then maybe 100 went into gas, and then 100 went into food, and then 100 went into a whole lot of other little bits and pieces. Now, all of a sudden, imagine my mother gets a job. Their disposable income goes up from just being like 10% of my dad's 500 to being 110% because my mom's got a job.
Yeah.
She's only actually just started working in the last sort of like 6 to 12 months since my father passed away, unfortunately. But that's what happened for a lot of people out there is all of a sudden now they've got this so much disposable income. So they're like, I'm going to go and I'm just going to buy a house. You know, we've been renting for a while. We've been making ends meet. Let's go buy a house together. That's one theory anyway about why the pricing started to skyrocket so much over the last couple of decades. That coupled with the fact we have no tax, like why would you not? If you want somewhere, everyone's going to always need somewhere to live.
Yeah,
always. And there's no tax on it. You don't pay anything annually. You don't pay anything when you go to sell. You don't pay anything on the profits. It's messed up.
Yeah, I mean the only thing you pay is rates,
which are like so it sucks for me. My rates are like $3,500 a year or something.
Okay, mine are nothing like that, but okay.
Yeah,
man. All right, that's quite a bit.
$3,500 a year, and but that's just it. Like that's part of owning a property in Auckland. I mean, so it's a small townhouse, but you know whatever. It's a place for us to call home. So you know we're not complaining.
Yeah, yeah.
But I look at it and I go, you know what? So one of the very, I don't want to say radical because it's got that negative connotation to it. You know, one of the radical things that the Opportunities Party in New Zealand have been talking about is the idea that you would pay like an annual, like what is effectively a tax, but not a tax on your property. So you own a house, you pay basically like 1%. So let's say you own $1 million house, you pay 1%, 10 grand a year on that. Every single year on its value. Now that's obviously going to suck if you are a investor who's got like half a dozen houses. That's really going to suck for you. You got half a dozen houses though. You know, I'm finding it hard to be a little bit sympathetic. I'm sorry. Yeah. But you look at, then they turn around and they say, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of that money and we're going to give sweeping tax cuts, like across the board. So unless you own more than like $1 million worth of property, you're going to be better off. Now all of a sudden we start looking at it going, right, the majority of New Zealanders, like I think it was like 85% of them are going to be better off. Great. We're going to have better availability of our houses for rent. We're going to have less people trying to just basically buy up anything that they can. And that's going to then subsequently affect rent because people are going to, A, be able to buy houses if they're more affordable, but B, it's going to affect rent because people aren't just buying them up and sitting on them. So we've got these unused houses. And so rent is going to come down as well. So people are then subsequently going to have more disposable income. Plus you've got a bigger tax cut. So you've got more disposable income. And I'm kind of looking at that going, even though I own a house and yes, my tax would go up because of that, my general thoughts are that that's probably for the greater good of the country.
Yeah.
And so why not just take that on the chin and go, okay, 10 grand a year, that's going to suck. You're going to get a tax break, probably around about 8 to 9 grand a year, maybe worth I don't know about you, but I could do so much with an extra 8 or 9 grand a year. And I'm not just talking about putting it all into Bitcoin and Digibyte.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And it's not just avocado on toast either. I hate avocado. But
So do you have people in your inner circle that kind of come to you for financial advice?
yeah, and my advice would be don't.
Don't what?
It's-
Don't come to you?
Well, yeah, that. Jeepers, I'm not the one to be answering for that kind of thing. But a lot of people come to me and they say, like, should I buy some Bitcoin? Should I buy myself some Digibyte? And my genuine advice would be, if you're going to do it, that's cool, but that's completely on you. I'm not going to encourage you to do it in any way, shape, or form, because the chances are you're doing it just for speculation. And if you want to do it for speculation, that's totally cool. Like 100%, I can get behind that. I understand it. If you just want to try and make some money, respect. That's cool. Everyone's got to have a side hustle, right? We don't want to all just be trudging along.
Living pay week to pay week.
Exactly, which is what a lot of Kiwis do, unfortunately.
Yeah, they do.
So I can completely understand why somebody would go, you know what, I'm going to just take $100 and put it into Digibyte. I can completely understand that. But I would say to them, go into it with the notion that you are... it is risky. We've seen it drop 30% in a day. We've seen it go up 40% in a day. So who knows? I would not recommend that anybody at all tries to play the trading game. I really wouldn't. It's not worth it. Sure, you could potentially.
No one's a clairvoyant, right? You don't really know. I mean, there's people out there that say they know, but economists and analysts and stuff, but they don't really know.
Yep.
They're just looking at statistics. But I mean, no one could have predicted COVID-19
out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. The impact it's had.
So it's definitely a very kind of counterintuitive outlook to have, especially being as I'm so invested in it. I probably spend a good 20 to 30 hours a week doing cryptocurrency stuff. I freaking love it. It's fascinating.
Okay, so it's not just like a work thing or a money grabbing thing, but you genuinely love it and are interested in it.
Yeah, for sure. So I spend 40 hours a week doing my day job, and then I probably spend another 20 to 30 a week doing cryptocurrency. I wake up every morning and I'll do some YouTube videos and things, and I put them up online. And I don't make any money out of those YouTube videos. I probably make, for the hour that it takes me to do it, I might make $1.
Yeah.
So it's not about the money there. It's about like education and helping people and teaching people and that kind of thing. And just being involved in this. The idea, so for me, it sounds real shitty, but I want to one day be able to sit down with my grandkids, right? I'm going to be sitting there like in a rocking chair with my cane, and I'm going to be a grumpy ass old man, right? And they'll come and they'll jump on my lap and they'll go, Grandpa, tell us about that time that you helped out with, I don't know, the world's financial revolution or something like that. I want to be a part of that aspect of it, and I want to be able to say I was there and I helped out, and maybe I taught a couple people a few things along the way that might have inspired them.
Yeah. Have you always been good with money though? Have you been the type of guy that saved?
I'm terrible with money.
Okay.
I am shit with money.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, so that in and of itself is a really good reason why I would say to anybody, do not listen to me for any kind of financial advice. Do not invest in cryptocurrency at all, because I'm terrible with money. And statistically, you're probably not going to make money if you go, right, I'm going to chuck in $1,000 and then a week later it goes down in price. You're like, oh, I'm sad now. I'm taking it out and I've been burnt and I'm never coming back.
Yeah. I had this guy, Dean Anderson. He's the owner of Kernel, which is it's a new form of investing basically for like index funds. Mm-hmm. Basically, you pay them and they kind of do all that for you, investing in NZX top 20.
That's quite cool.
Yeah,
sort of like what your KiwiSaver does.
Similar, but yeah, I had a good chat with him, and he said something similar. The market fluctuates quite a bit, but he said the worst thing to do is just take it out as soon as it dives. It's a long-term thing. He said sometimes it's best just to not even look at it, just completely forget about it. Because if you monitor it too much, then you can build up anxiety over it.
You work yourself into a frenzy.
It's down.
I've lost 5% today. Well, how much did you put in? You're still up like 50% for the last 12 months. Who cares if you lose 5% today? And that's what that's what happened earlier on in the week. Was we saw the whole entire Bitcoin, Lightcoin, Digibyte, everything crashed down like 30%. it was really interesting because I was talking with a friend of mine, James, in London, and he basically said, look, it's down 30%. That sounds really bad, but he's like, now's a perfect time. So he went out and he bought himself another $1,000 worth, and then it went up 40% 2 days later. So he's kind of going,
yeah.
But it's all paper gains until you actually like then take it out, or you go and you spend it. It's
a gamble, Not to the extent of a casino, but similar.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a lot more interested in it for the idea that it is a permissionless currency. So what we see, especially in the likes of Venezuela, where they've got a government that is like printing money like you wouldn't believe, their dollar is not worth shit.
Yeah,
and so hyperinflation over there is incredibly real. You would let's say you get paid $1,000, and you do your week's worth of work, you take it all out, you've got your cash. But over the course of the next 2 weeks, you try and put $100 worth in savings. That $100 now all of a sudden can't buy you anything the following week because you're no longer getting paid $1,000 a week. You're getting paid $3,000 a week just to keep up with the inflation and things. And so your $100 that you had is not worth $100 worth now. It's only worth like 20 or 30 because of that inflation. And so the idea behind, I like the idea of cryptocurrency being permissionless and having a fixed supply, at least most of them do. So the likes of Bitcoin, for example, there's only going to be 21 million, and it's the fact that there is no bank that can stop me from going and spending it. We're seeing, especially in America right now as well, there are banks that are basically going, oh, you want to withdraw more than $2,000, right? Let's have a little bit of a chat about that, shall we?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to need to ask you why. We need to know why you want your money. You want to take it out just to hide it under your mattress? That's not going to be good enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it in the bank. And so the fact is even, it's not your money.
Not really. No.
And so I stop and I look at it and I go, the fact that nobody could stop me from sending you Bitcoin. Nobody in the world. It's uncensorable. Some people have even called it free speech money, which is an interesting way of looking at it.
It is. I imagine America probably deemed that term.
It sounds like a very American thing, doesn't it? We're all like, wake up in the morning and we piss freedom and,
Yeah. But so... does anyone ever come to you, though? Because I'd imagine just doing what you do, and with all the seminars and stuff that you do, that people would come to you and ask for advice maybe on even just saving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people that are terrible with money. They don't even know how to save any money per week.
Yep.
I don't actually know why Kiwis are so bad at it.
Yeah, we're terrible. I'm terrible. And that's the hardest part as well, is like, I suck at it. I suck at saving.
I find that real interesting that you're not very good at saving.
Yeah.
But you seem to be quite onto it when it comes to cryptocurrency, because it's a very complex thing, because I've had numerous people try to explain it to me in depth.
Yep.
Like really in depth. You're doing way better than they are.
Well, there's no easy elevator pitch for me to say. The way that it works is you take your private key, you generate your public key, you derive an address, you generate that address. There's no easy elevator pitch.
Nah, there isn't. And I think some people look at investing and it's one of those, they just want to get money quick.
Yep.
That's the same thing with Lotto. It's getting money quick. But I actually feel if you inherit a lot of money too quickly,
yeah,
sometimes if you don't have the right character,
it could be really bad for you.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people who win Lotto, they end up losing it all anyway.
Totally broke. Potentially even worse off than they were prior, which is the really fascinating thing.
Yeah.
Because they quit their job. Oh, I got tons of money and like that kind of thing. So
yeah.
I couldn't.
So you don't give any advice on saving? Or would you say do the opposite of what you do?
Yeah. I am the worst person to model yourself off. Do not. No. Okay. If you want to get involved with using cryptocurrency, don't go mortgage your house. That's a shitty idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'd agree.
People out there do that though, so I kind of feel like you've got. Sometimes
it's like with COVID-19, right? Just stay in the middle with it. Don't go too low where you don't even care about it. It's just a flu, and then the other extreme where you're buying 100 bags of toilet paper. There
are some crazy people. Oh, it was so funny actually. So I I sold a spare computer of mine yesterday.
Yeah.
And my flatmate had come home and had one of those small little like 4 rolls of toilet paper, just the really tiny ones, because that's all that it was. And so she has a separate bathroom from us. Like my wife and I were on the top floor of our little townhouse. We look after ourselves. And she came home, she'd done some shopping, and she just basically put that little 4 roll of toilet paper there because, it's just her. And she's like, I don't need to go buy a 12-pack. I'm not a freaking psychopath.
Yeah.
And the guy comes over to buy the computer, and I take him into the living room, and I show him the computer, and he's like, yep, cool, we're good. And so as he's walking out with the computer, he goes, nice low-key flex there with you having your toilet paper sitting on your bench top there in your kitchen, mate. And I'm going, shit, that wasn't even like, because it's just sitting there on the bench top next to where she'd unpacked her groceries and just left it there. And he's like, yeah, nice flex, bro.
Yeah.
So much toilet paper, we leave ours on the bench on display.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some people like stacking rolls and rolls and rolls of them, eh?
Yeah.
I don't know how many craps you're going to be taking in 2 weeks if you're isolated, but hey.
I've got irritable bowel disorder, and I can promise, even with that, I can say, like, I know you guys, you don't need that much.
Yeah, you don't need that much. But hysteria prompts more hysteria.
That's crazy. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And I suppose it's the same with anything, right? Like if people panic and pull their shares out, it causes other people to pull their shares out.
Yeah, and then you're going to cause the whole entire thing to crash even further and even harder. It was really interesting. I was watching the movie Paycheck, and he talks about that, and he talks about how they go to war to prevent a war because they basically see the future, and everything becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. There is a virus, and they herd the sick together, causing a plague because they herd all of the sick together to try and stop the virus, and they make the virus even worse because all the sick together. And it's
well, that's what Britain were wanting to do, the whole herd immunity thing. They've gone back on it now.
I can't help but wonder, right, with that, where the government basically goes, well, we done fucked up, guys. We can save face by saying it was intentional. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work out for them.
Well, we'll probably look back on this in a year or 2 or however long this takes, and you'll see which countries come out of it reasonably unscathed and which ones, will suffer for, decades to come.
Well, the funny thing was I was talking with my younger brother, right? And so he suffers from a lot of anxiety, and he was basically saying, when was it? I think it was like end of January. He was super duper worried about like World War III starting because of what was going on with America and
Iran.
Yeah. And
that missile. Yeah.
He was just like, oh, it's gonna be bad. We're gonna have World War III in our hands. He's completely forgotten about that now. Yeah. We have the plague instead.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people forget. People have short memories, man. Something negative quickly gets replaced with the next negative thing.
But you're right. Like, so you said just before, like, the hysteria breeds hysteria.
Yeah. It's perfectly true, though. Because humanity is kind of sheep, in a way.
Yeah.
We tend to follow what everyone else is doing, and, emotion clouds logical thought.
Yep. Oh, and especially when it comes to money and things, people are so damn emotional.
Yeah. I mean, I feel I'm okay with money.
Yeah.
Like I don't. I've always kind of approached it like, is this a desire item or a require item?
Right.
So I try to lean towards.
I have really
the
big
latter.
eyes. Like I love technology, so I have a lot of desire items out there. Like I want the new toys, for the computer, and I want.
But it's very
nice microphone.
easy to be tempted by the desire item, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of force myself. Most of the time, 95% of the time, I only buy the require item. Right. And if it is a desire item, I have to justify a very good reason in my head as to why I get it. Because the thing is, when you buy a new technology, the novelty always wears off. And you got to work out why you're actually buying it. Are you buying it for bragging rights? Like, are you actually going to utilize it to its full potential? Like, what's the reason you're getting it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good. That's how I live by. I'm not saying everyone should live like that, but I do think there's some people, they'd buy like 8 coffees a day or something. I'm like, you don't need to do that.
That's a lot of coffee.
That is a lot of coffee.
Think about, okay, so that's an interesting one because that was something that a friend of mine said. He was like, because he actually does, he buys 4 coffees a day. I'm like, damn, dude, that's a lot of Java that you're going through, all that caffeine.
Yeah.
I said to him, I was talking with him about it, and he basically said, why don't I cut down? So instead of doing 4 a day, maybe I'll only do 3 a day, and I'll have 1 at home, and I'll use that money to dollar cost average in and buy myself a little bit of Digibyte every week, just a little bit. Doesn't matter, price go up, price go down. He's like, I don't care. He said, I'll just buy a little bit. And I'm saving that money that I would have put into a coffee. Now, the funny thing is, as well, as the coffee is a business expense because he travels a lot for his job and things, and he has to meet with people. He's a consultant, so it's probably going to be a business expense investment.
Yeah.
But hey, good on him.
But that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Price go up, price go down. He doesn't care. He's just $50 a week.
Yeah.
Every week.
So have you practiced anything like that? Have you tried to remove anything out of your life in order to invest it back into Digibyte?
Yes. But I'm terrible at kind of like sticking to plans like that and things.
Right.
So
yeah. Are you more of an analytical person or a spontaneous person? Or you fall in the middle?
Both.
Well, it's good. It's actually good to be both.
No, but I'm impatient.
Oh, so am I, bro. It's all good.
And I'm well aware that I'm impatient. So new video game comes out. Yesterday, the game Doom comes out.
I want to get that.
Oh, so good. I'm impatient. I bought the game.
Right.
Paid freaking $120 for it.
Is that how much it is?
Yeah. Such a good game. Oh my goodness. The first one from 2016 was amazing as well.
I was just cranking the soundtrack this morning.
It's such a good sound. And you're there and you're slaying demons and you're just like, yes. But so I'm very well aware. I could wait for... same thing happened with Borderlands 3 recently, so I'm a little bit of a gamer. Borderlands 3 came out. That was also $100. They released it on Steam a week ago or something, so it's been out now for 3 months. Prices come down 50%. The game's still the same.
Yeah.
In fact, there's more because they've brought out expansions.
Yeah.
I could wait 3 months and get myself the game. But I don't want to wait. I'm impatient. I want to play the video games.
I think a lot of people are like that with games, though. It depends on like the nature of the game. Like there's certain games that don't really drop in value, like Call of Duty or Nintendo games or anything like that. They always stay the same price. So it doesn't matter when you buy it, it's still going to be the same anyway. But most games drop in value. So yes, it is better to wait. It just depends on how long you have to wait. But I don't actually have a lot of free time these days anyway. So like even if I buy Doom Eternal, which I will at some point, I don't even know when I'm going to get a chance to play it. Yeah.
But at least if you're playing video games, you can do it late at night. You'll sit down, you can do a little bit of video editing. You can go, okay, cool. My head's hurting. I've had enough. Grab yourself a beer, sit down, crank up that music, piss off the neighbors somewhat chronic because it is such a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
And just go slay some demons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
So you did a tax submission to the government.
Yeah. Tax working group submission.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did that go down? So what was the idea behind it, and then what actually was the outcome of that?
Actually, it went really quite well. So, especially in New Zealand, we are such a mixed bunch over here. We are so progressive and forward thinking in some areas, and we are just so completely ass backwards in other ways. It's so funny. So with this tax working group submission, we basically, when they were looking at ways that they can, because when did the Labour government put out that call? Was 18 months ago or something, and they're like, we need a new tax working group because we've already had 100 working groups.
Yeah, I think that might have been 18 months ago.
It was a while ago.
But it was a while ago, yeah.
Let's say 18 months, 2 years, whatever, just for the sake of it. We were coming up on election time, actually. Yeah, so it probably was around about then. And they basically said, we want submissions for this tax working group on almost anything. And so me and a couple of other people involved in cryptocurrency in New Zealand got together, and we basically put this submission together. So there was a few of us all up, maybe half a dozen. And we basically said to the government, we're like, look, this is not your typical kind of investment. You can't, like, if I'm going to have to go and pay GST when I purchase Bitcoin, that means that in New Zealand, I'm now paying a 15% premium on top of what anywhere else in the world is for no good reason, especially if you're like, but if you treat it like a currency, like say, for example, if I'm buying Australian dollars, I go to the airport and going to get myself some Australian dollars, go over to Australia, I don't have to pay GST on that purchase.
Right.
So we talked about a whole bunch of stuff like that.
So was it an actual meeting, or did you have to write up a document first?
Yeah, a huge document. So
how long was it? How big was the document?
Oh, we used like 10 size font point or whatever it is, and I think it was like 40 something pages long.
40 pages.
Yeah, it was like a pretty. It was a really, really good document. They made it look all pretty and stuff as well. It was nice. It was really good. Super proud of it. I wonder, we've probably still got a copy somewhere.
So did you help write it?
Yeah.
Or did you do spell check? Like,
yeah, all of it, all of that. Even
how
technical modifications. So they're talking about the way that certain currencies work and things like that, because not all of them are treated equally, and we talked about the difference between like an ICO that somebody has done versus like Bitcoin, which was launched where nobody had a great big amount of money like stashed away for themselves, and a whole lot of other things. We talked about all of that stuff. And actually the IRD came out, so they came out last year, and they said if you want to, you can pay your employees in cryptocurrency, you can pay them in Bitcoin, you can pay them in Digibyte, and we're totally okay with that, but the PAYE must still be paid to us as the IRD in New Zealand dollars. But if you want to pay them in cryptocurrency, you go ahead and do that. Like, wow, that's actually really quite insightful is the wrong word, like forward thinking and progressive of the IRD. Yeah. There are very few places in the world that do that. And so I was kind of like, oh, go New Zealand. Go us, the scrappy little country in the corner of the globe.
Yeah.
They even came out then again earlier on, I think it was in January, and the IRD basically, they further clarified a bunch of the rules around taxation for it. And let's say you go and you buy yourself some Bitcoin for $5,000, and then you sell that Bitcoin for $10,000. What happens to the tax there, and how is that taxed? So they've brought out even more details to help people, specifically in the last like month or two as well. A lot of it is very much in line with what this submission that me and a couple of other people put together. I wasn't even leading the charge, so I don't want people to think I'm touting my own horn here or anything. I was.
So how many of you worked on it?
6, 8 people, 7, yeah.
All part of the Digibyte Foundation or not?
No, so specifically just people within. So one of them is a lady who runs Easy Crypto New Zealand,
right?
Janine, and she basically kind of like organized the whole thing. She was kind of the brains behind it, if you will. She was like, I want you to help out. I want you to help out, and I know you as well. You're cool, and we want you to help out as well. And let's get together. Let's lock ourselves in a Google Doc for the next like couple of hours, and we're gonna smash out a whole bunch of stuff, and then we'll just improve on it over the next week, 2 weeks, and we did.
Is that how long it took you? Just 2 weeks?
Yeah, a couple of weeks. Wasn't too bad.
Wow. I'd imagine that a document like that, you'd have to, I don't know, you'd work on it for a couple of months, but...
It's not too bad, especially like if you sit down in the evening, you've got yourself a beer, and you kind of like 2 or 3 beers in, the creative juices just start flowing, and you're just mashing on the keyboard, and just whatever comes out, you know.
Because I would imagine in your case, because with cryptocurrency, it's too complex for some people.
Yeah.
Were you ever worried when you were writing the document, I'm like, okay, are we writing this that, a person has no idea about cryptocurrency would understand this?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So
okay.
the whole kind of explain like I'm 5 mentality had to go through our heads for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Was explain it like we're talking to a 5-year-old. Again, like I've mentioned, though, there's no quick elevator pitch, but we were predominantly able to utilize existing things that they would understand about. So if we're talking about exchanging between currencies, so if I sell my Bitcoin and I buy Digibyte with it, should I pay tax on that then as well? Because I'm still a New Zealand citizen, and it's still, if it's classed as an asset, do I pay tax on the capital gains then? So yeah, it was really quite good, but we were able to give them briefs, because obviously you've got like your opening summary and your executive summary and all of those kind of things, and so we utilized all of our the opportunity that we had to the fullest. It was great. It was really quite cool. And so the IRD in New Zealand have taken a lot of that on board. So kudos, because I'm not normally a fan of the idea that we have 1,000,001 different working groups.
Yeah.
I think it's stupid, but whatever. Just hire the damn experts to begin with. Just freaking do it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these politicians are not experts in anything, you know. That's why I think I've had some politicians on here. There was one I had on, Louise Hart. She suggested a panel, you know,
Yeah.
a panel of people.
There's merit to that.
Yeah, that can provide expertise to the politicians. Because they can't be experts in everything, right?
No.
Yeah. So you did the document, and then there was a meeting with IRD.
Yeah, we to be honest, we mostly just sent it off to them and we didn't hear jack shit back.
Oh.
They went stone cold for the most part. But some of the things that we put into that document, we're able to look at now and especially go, yeah, they've definitely, this is based literally almost word for word on what we wrote, which was quite cool.
So how did you find that information? Just from announcements or looking on their website? Or?
So the IRD emails people out semi-regularly, and they put out some guidelines. Like I said, I think it was in January, like 4 to 6 weeks ago, whatever, and they basically said, here's some new guidelines that we are thinking we're going to bring out around cryptocurrency. It's looking like this is what it's going to be. We're just giving you a bit of a heads up, and some of them are pretty much word for word what we'd suggested to them, which was quite cool. So
okay. So when you wrote the document, were you just expecting them to be like,
sort
not
of
interested? Yeah?
Yeah, sort of. It's if you want to speak with somebody in the IRD, I actually tried this. So it was actually really quite funny. Short story time here. I was interviewed by the New Zealand Herald for my cryptocurrency mining in December of 2017, back when everybody was going like rabid about buying Bitcoin and making money and things. They interviewed me because I had a bunch of different computers that were doing cryptocurrency mining. They were mining Digibyte. They didn't care. They thought that it was Bitcoin. They were basically like, it's a Bitcoin mining farm. No, it's Digibyte. It's different. It's not the same as Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin mining. But whatever. And so they came and they interviewed me. But I said to them, I've not been able to like make sure that my tax at that point was all like, you know, sharpened up sort of thing.
Okay.
So I said to them, I'll do this. I'm happy to let you through. I'll give you a full tour. I'll explain whatever you want. But I want this to basically be anonymous, so I don't want you to show the front of my face. Because I didn't know.
I know your face now.
Well, yeah, like I've done interviews and things like that for American universities and stuff, like whatever. But at the time, I was still relatively like nobody saw my face. I wasn't doing YouTube videos or anything either.
Yeah.
And so I said to them, I was like, I don't know. Like I've tried to reach out to people in the IRD and clarify what my obligations are, because I'm mining cryptocurrency here. So I'm effectively generating this wealth out of thin air. I'm trading my graphics card cycles on my computer for money. It's a digital money though. Like, so what are the rules around it? Nobody in the IRD could help me. Nobody whatsoever.
Is that just because they didn't know what the hell you were talking about, or because
they'd heard of it? They'd heard of Bitcoin, but they didn't
really have much policy around it?
Correct. Yeah. No policy whatsoever. And so I actually found a guy, his name's Tim, and he's actually in the Waikato, and he runs the only accounting firm in New Zealand that had any knowledge whatsoever about cryptocurrency. So I think I rang around about 40 different accounting firms, even contacting the likes of PricewaterhouseCoopers and basically going, what do you think about cryptocurrency? How can we, what's the stance on it in New Zealand? Nobody knew. Nobody had a clue. So I found this guy, Tim Doyle, from AgBiz. Shout outs to him because he made life super easy. It was great. And he basically said, well, we don't have any implicitly defined structure from the IRD, but if we do it like this, and we do it like this, and we do it like this, and we do it like this, based on our best understanding of how they would likely treat this, there is a good chance that everything's going to be all okay. And at the very least, they will see that you've gone and made an effort, you've gone and paid tax, you've been doing the right thing, and so they're not going to come after you. I thought, okay, that's cool, fine, sweet. So we did that, and that was in like the March or April that year. And now, I can do YouTube videos and podcasts and things. I don't have to worry about like people just seeing the side of my side of my face.
Okay, so it's come a long, long way.
It's come a long. I mean, that was only so end of 2017. So yeah, we're 2020 now. So just on 2 years, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
This beautiful, scrappy little country in the corner of the globe. Yeah.
So we're quite progressive compared to some other countries. Do you know what the laws are like and taxes in regards to other countries?
So America actually just put something out last year, and they said if you have received a virtual currency, they use very like weird as shit wording. If you've received a virtual currency, you must pay tax on that. The problem was that also included virtual currencies like V-Bucks for Fortnite.
Ah.
And so all of a sudden, all of these gamers are going, my kids bought this virtual currency and now I've got to pay like 30% tax or whatever on top of that. Like, what the hell?
Is that still going on, or did they?
Apparently they've kind of, they made like a little bit of like an amendment, and they were like, not Fortnite currency, but other virtual currencies, but not game currencies. It's like, well, what about the currencies that I use, like if I'm going to buy something for my Farmville or, you know, things like that. Apparently they were all covered in it. And so a lot of people actually started to fill out their tax return forms based on the fact they'd gone and bought like V-Bucks for Fortnite or Farmville virtual currency or you know.
That is so weird.
Because they were just like, yep, we'll throw it out. We've got no idea what we're doing. And so it makes me super proud of this country, right? Like that we've actually, in some ways, we got our shit together.
Yeah.
Like,
so where would you like to see it go in terms of additional, you know, rules, or in regards to tax, or where cryptocurrency stands?
That's a really good question. Where it stands, I think, is probably, well, okay, why don't we quickly, we'll answer the tax. Sure, you should potentially be taxed on it. Probably only on your capital gains. I think it shouldn't matter when you, like if you go out and you buy yourself 1 Bitcoin, you go out and you buy 1,000 Digibyte. You shouldn't get taxed on that every year, not until you either, if you buy it with the intent of using it as like a retirement fund, and then a decade down the line you go and sell it. So that $1,000 is now worth $50,000 maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Sure, pay a little bit of tax on that. You've gone and done really well for yourself. Good job.
Yeah.
Pay a little bit to the tax man, seems fair, keep the country running. Cool, whatever. I'm all about that. But if you are buying it with the intent of using it as currency, so the idea being like, I want to buy some so that I can specifically pay back Reece for that pizza that he bought last week that we split. When we went, you know, we had a few beersies and we stumbled down the road to, you know, Pizza Hut, got ourselves some beers. I told him I was going to give him some money. I can just send him some real easy across the country. It'll be there in 15 seconds and he's going to be happy. Maybe not paying capital gains on that when you're selling it, you know, that sort of thing. But overall, what I would really love to see, so I'd love to see two things for New Zealand especially. The first one would be when you go certain places, and especially this is, I mean, it sounds really terrible, but when you go to a lot of like food courts and things like that, especially like Asian food courts, on their EFTPOS terminals, you've got the ability to pay with Alipay and WePay.
Yeah.
I want to see cryptocurrency alongside that. Generate me a QR code. I'll scan. I'll pay you in that. I'd love to. I think that'd be cool.
Oh, like an app on a phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I've reached out to some local EFTPOS machine vendors in New Zealand to get them to take Digibyte on their EFTPOS terminals and things like that. So working with a couple of them to try and make that all happen, just like you would with Alipay or WeChat.
How successful is that proving to be, though?
It's slow pickings.
Yeah, I bet it is. Is that because they don't fully understand it either?
Partly, but I think the biggest thing is that I don't have a very big wallet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so someone's got to pay for that integration. Someone's got to pay to make that happen.
Right.
Sure, shit ain't me. I don't have any money.
And you're not going to mortgage your house
No.
to pay for it either.
Don't mortgage your house. It's a bad idea to buy cryptocurrency with a mortgage house. But yes.
Yeah.
So you know, that kind of thing. So usually somebody's got to pay to do that development work. We actually have certain developers worldwide. We've got people that are in Australia, people that are in America, people that are in London. We've got people that are in like all over the show that do develop, and they build cool stuff that you can do with Digibyte that work with it. They would be willing to do that kind of thing.
They would be.
But what do you think the chances are of like an EFTPOS company over here going, we're going to give you all of our secrets. We're going to let you see everything and see how it all works.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So, but I'd love to see that. And so clearly it's possible. It's doable. You can do it. We've seen like Alipay and WePay, and we've seen all that stuff, and they work on the terminals. And this is exactly the same. You hold up your phone, you scan your QR code, you hit your fingerprint, thumbprint,
Whatever. Yeah.
punch in your PIN if you've got a really, really old phone.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that. But what I also want to see more is I want to see more cybersecurity solutions. So one of the things that Digibyte's really cool about is their forward-thinking focus on cybersecurity. So one of the big things that I think is going to impact people a lot over the coming years is as they realize that having a password is a really bad idea.
Why?
So a lot of people, when you, like, if say, for example, my mom's actually a prime example. She used the same password for her bank. She used the same password to sign up for her KiwiSaver. She used the same password for her Facebook account.
Well, that's really bad.
It's common.
Yeah, a lot of people do it. Yeah, because people don't want to have 25 different passwords, and you'll probably end up always clicking on the forgot password. Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing, right? So people they'll go, okay, I've got my password. My password's going to be my password's going to be my pet's name, Sparky, and then I'm going to put a 7 on the end. Okay, cool. Now that you go to somewhere else and they're like, you've got to have a capital letter. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to capitalize the S, so I got capital S for Sparky. Cool.
Yeah.
You go somewhere else and they're like, you got to have 2 letters that are capitals. Sparky only got one name.
Yeah.
Okay, Sparky 7, and then we're going to do, my name starts with J, so capital J on the end. Cool. Sparky 7J. But then the problem is you go back there 6 months down the line and you go, what was their password requirements now?
Yeah.
And so you do, you'll punch it in and you go Sparky 7 with a capital S. Oh, you're locked out.
Yeah.
That's useless.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time. So one of the things that we're doing with Digibyte is we're using the same technology that you use to verify that you own the funds and to send Digibyte to anybody around the world. We're using that same technology to log you into websites. So there is no password, there is no username. You go to the website and there's a little QR code. You scan the QR code and you anonymously identify that you are you. Without identifying that you are you, it's kind of complicated, but you basically prove that you own that particular address.
But how do you prove that?
So there's let me try and explain this in a real easy to understand way. What the website does is the website says here's a word, for example, and we'll just use the word Sparky just because it's in the front of my brain right now. We need you to take that and we need you to encrypt that word Sparky and send that to us in a particular way. And when we get that word Sparky from you, we expect that we will be able to match it up with what you say your public key is.
Right.
And so using what is advanced cryptography, I've kind of dumbed it down in a terrible way. You can prove that you are you because you take that word Sparky and you mash it up with your public key. You sign the whole thing, you send it to them, they're able to verify it's you. There is no personally identifiable information that's transmitted, but they can every single time pseudo-anonymously identify that you are you. You are this random string of letters and numbers.
So you'd like to see that applied across the entire web?
Yeah, ideally.
Not just the dark web.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There are places that you can go and you can use it and you can already try it out and it's amazing. It's super fast. It's super convenient.
Yeah.
A similar kind of thing happens at the moment when you go to a website and you click the button that says sign in with Google and it pops up and it says which email address do you want? I'll go, I'll use my personal one or I'll use my work one. Same thing happens. Sign in with Facebook. You click sign in with Facebook. The problem is they get all the information about you. They get the information like they've got your email address, they've got potentially your name, they've got maybe your phone number, maybe your address, depending on what they ask for.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information that I don't really want these other places to be having about me, especially when, so kind of coming back to my mother here, she used the same password. She was a victim of what was the name of that Generate KiwiSaver hack that happened a little while ago?
Oh.
So,
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
So not only do the people that are there, so she had to put in a couple of documents and things like that as part of it, which they now have. These hackers have those documents. They could potentially go and open up credit cards in her name, for example, all that kind of thing. It's terrible. But if you're going somewhere and all that the website has, like the website doesn't need to know your address. They don't need to know your email address. They don't need to know your phone number. They don't need to know any of that sort of thing. But we regularly just kind of turn it over to websites, and websites get hacked. And then all of a sudden, all of your information is out there, and people can build like a profile about you. They can then go and commit identity theft, identity fraud. They can open up a credit card in your name. Imagine if like 2 or 3 months from now, down the line, you get a message from KiwiBank, and KiwiBank go, hey, yeah, Reece, look, you haven't made a payment on your credit card in the last 3 months since you opened it. When you going to do that? And you go, well, I bank with ASB. I don't bank with KiwiBank. And so KiwiBank are going to go, no, we opened up the account for you. We opened it up 3 months ago. We've gave you that $50,000 credit card. You maxed it out pretty quick. Good job. You did a really good job of maxing it out super fast. Some questionable purchases on there as well, but you did, and you maxed it out. You got to start paying it off. You go, but that's not me. They go, yeah, but we've got all your details. You gave us your name. You gave us, all of your address, your phone number, and all that sort of thing. All of this details that were made public from this website hack. Now, if the website didn't have those details, they don't need those details. If you're doing sign in with my Google, sign in with your Digibyte Digi-ID, that kind of thing, now all of a sudden they don't have a lot of that information. That's a lot safer. If all they've got is a random string of letters and numbers about you, why do they need to know your name if you're going to go to some website? And so often they really don't.
This is fascinating stuff, dude.
Yeah.
So you could approach companies and, I don't know, get them to pay you to teach them this stuff.
Yeah. Anybody out there?
Yeah. I had a cybersecurity guy on here last year, actually.
Yeah.
He heads up one of the cybersecurity labs in New Zealand, the one in the Waikato. Yeah, and he was talking about this stuff too.
Yeah.
Like all the nefarious purposes that are used by hackers.
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty scary stuff when you think about it.
Well, but that's just the thing is, so if a website doesn't need to have your address, like let's say if you're signing up for Uber, sure, Uber needs to know your address because you're going to be getting stuff delivered to you.
Yeah.
But if you're signing up for, the umpteenth time, some kind of newsletter on some sort of website, they don't need to know where you live. They really don't.
Yeah.
They probably shouldn't. They don't need to know your mobile phone number. How many times have you ever been called by a website? But they all want to know your phone number.
Yeah.
And it's not good having that kind of thing. It sounds real like alarmist. It's not. I don't want people to kind of take it that way. I want to more kind of say there is a better way.
Yeah.
We can be doing things better, and these are some of the things that we're thinking about with Digibyte. We're trying to push the boundaries. We want to push humanity forward, and that's it's pretty.
You ever
exciting.
thought of doing like technology innovation or something?
Maybe one day we'll be able to have
Yeah.
YouTube channel that pays for it. Or so. I
Whatever. No, but you seem pretty onto it, dude.
Thank
You
you.
need to watch Black Mirror, bro. I think you'll
Yeah.
really, really like it, eh?
What else have you been watching lately that's worth checking out? I've been watching Picard. I loved that.
I don't actually watch that many television shows or
Yeah.
series type things. I think Black Mirror was the only one, mostly because I don't have the time. And with
Yeah.
a series, you usually have to invest a lot of time into it.
Yep.
That's why I prefer films because, they're usually an hour and a half or 2 hours and I can fit that in.
You know what your commitment level is.
Yeah. Which is part of the reason why I don't really play video games much either, or if I do, it's something you can pick up and play like Street Fighter or Smash Brothers or something.
Yep.
Whereas opposed to like an RPG where you have to invest like 70 hours because I don't have 70 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
You will for Doom, though.
Well, what I'll have to do is I'll probably have to, just set some time aside and just do it. I don't know when that will be, but yeah.
But that's the hard thing as well, is there's no so we don't have a TV antenna, so we've got to go watch everything on demand, Netflix.
But that's the future anyway. I don't even remember the last time I even watched television with a...
Super cool.
I don't even have an aerial, bro.
Yeah.
There's no aerial in my house. So everything I watch is through streaming pretty much because that's the future, Television is changing. Even radio is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Technology just changes so many things.
Radio-
And then coronavirus has to come and ruin it.
Yeah. We had a good thing, guys. Now we're going back to the dark ages.
No, I mentioned Netflix will make a ton of money from people self-isolating.
Yeah, you're going to stay at home. What are you going to do? Netflix and chill. That's it.
Yep.
There's nothing else to do.
Yep, that's exactly it.
It's but that's the thing, especially with audio podcasts. A lot of people now are basically like, while you're at the gym, you're on a cross trainer or something,
Yeah.
headphones in, because then you don't have to worry about like watching it, seeing something happen. Like, you know, you're watching Game of Thrones and you see he goes and he pushes the kid out the window, like, you know, you hear it, you've got to be watching it. But if you've got a podcast, that's why podcasting is becoming so popular, I feel, is because a lot of people want to multitask. They want to be in the car listening to something like this, listening to your Kiwi Talks on the way to work. You want to be at the gym doing that kind of thing. You can be cooking yourself some dinner and have it playing in the background there.
Yeah, totally. That's why I try to have it available on everything. It's interesting because, you know, I've only noticed really in the last year or so that people are really starting to catch on to podcasts. Yeah. I'm seeing more and more Kiwi podcasts show up.
Yeah. Any shout outs you'd like to do for other Kiwi ones?
Well, there's a hip hop one, Broke Artist Podcast, if you're into hip hop ones. What's another one? There's the... what is it? The Good Investor, I think it is. Darcy Ungaro is his name.
Okay.
He's an investor guy. He's supposed to come on this show at some point.
Nice.
But I listen to a lot, and to be honest, I feel like a lot of these podcasts have no identity though.
Right.
There's nothing unique about them.
Starting a podcast for the sake of it.
Yeah, just everyone doing a podcast.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're all, you know, and if they do video, it's all shot in the same studio.
Right.
You know, all targeting the same demographic.
Yep.
And I'm thinking you're all competing for the same demographic. And a lot of things that people don't do. Timestamps, man.
I saw yours. Freaking, like, I was like,
dude.
best timestamps on the internet right there.
Yep. I always include timestamps, man,
Yep.
because the reason is people are busy, man. You know, if you're asking for their time, you're asking for them to invest their time in listening to, well, not just me, but whoever the guest is, right? And people don't necessarily have time to sit down and listen to a 40-minute podcast or a 50-minute podcast, particularly in my case because it's so subjected.
You cover a little bit here.
Yeah. So I cover so many different topics, right? And what resonates with one person might not resonate with another. So that's why I provide the timestamps. It's like an audio book, or like you're reading a book and you're like going to a chapter.
Yep. Well, they're also really good for if you're picking up where you left off. So, for example, if I've been listening to something on my cell phone, I went and you then take it, you sit down at your computer, description down below. Yep. No, we didn't talk about. Okay, cool. Tap. Cool.
Yeah.
Right where you left off.
Yep. That's the beauty of them. But most podcasts don't use them. Like Joe Rogan, he's obviously the biggest podcaster in the world, probably, at least in America. Like, he doesn't do podcasts, but he's got those small little clips. So he's got the main podcast, which is 2 hours, 3 hours. But then he's got his like little clips that are, you know, between 5 to 7 minutes.
Yep.
So you
The
still
JRE
kind of get the
clips.
gist of, you know, what they cover, and you can kind of pick and choose. Consume the content the way you want to.
Yeah. Finding out about the cool stuff that you're interested in.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's something that's, for me as well, especially like with Digibyte, I found something that I'm interested in. I want to go out there and I want to get everything that I can. But I'm also well aware that there are certain people who are not interested so much in, you know, talking about video games. Maybe they're only watching this specifically so that we can talk about cryptocurrency. Maybe they're only watching it for a little bit of an update on what's going on with the coronavirus. But because you've got all of your timestamps and everything, they're like, cool, I'm going to pick and choose, and I just want little bits over here.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be some people that might listen or watch this and be like, I'm not actually interested in cryptocurrency, but I like the bit where they talked about Doom Eternal or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, so yeah. So I might wrap up there, but where's the best place for anyone to follow, you know, your YouTube channel or any of that jazz?
So you can look me up on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search for Josiah Spackman Digibyte,
it'll come up.
Yeah, I'll come up.
What happens if you just type Digibyte?
I'll probably come up as well, actually, because to be honest, I do a video almost every single day. A lot of it will be talking about like what we've been doing, catching people up with the latest like technological advancements, developments, new places where you could buy Digibyte. So I've got people from all over the world. It's not just specifically New Zealand. It is a very worldwide movement.
Cool.
I also do the occasional kind of like, not like presentation, but basically presentation. I'll put together like a proper like set of slides and I'll say, look, this is what we're thinking of doing. This is why. Here's some pros, here's some cons, here's some cool stuff. So if you go check that out, I also run a bunch of other things to do with Digibyte, but if anybody is interested in it, I'd recommend you go and check out Easy Crypto New Zealand. Really cool exchange. They'll hook you up. They make it pretty seamless. You basically send them some money, they'll send you some back. Go and grab yourself a Digibyte wallet, try it out. We're on Android, we're on iOS, we're on your PC.
Yeah.
Digibytewallets.com, and
don't mortgage your house.
don't mortgage your house.
Yeah. Hey, man, this has been like so good because you're actually probably the first person that I've talked to about this stuff that's kind of explained it in simple terms
Nice.
for an amateur like me. So it's great because some guys I talk to and I'm like, dude, you might as well be speaking Spanish to me, man. I have no idea what you are on about. So this has been real, real good.
Appreciate it.
We'll probably have to do this again at some point, I think.
Yeah, maybe, we can catch up again in like 6-12 months and we can talk about how hopefully the landscape's changed, not just because it's all decimated because no one looks after it because of the coronavirus, but hopefully it will be that we can talk about and say, hey, a lot more places are accepting cryptocurrency. I've gone and bought a car with Bitcoin now or something, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I mean, I do think this is a pivotal moment in history. I think there's definitely going to be a before and after coronavirus. I think it's going to change a lot of things in the world.
What better time to ditch your cash and start using something from your cell phone where you don't specifically have to...
Yeah. Well, the world might go cashless at some point. Or some countries specifically. I don't think America will anytime soon, but we might. We might be one of the first.
We are surprisingly forward-thinking.
We are when it comes to that, yes.
There's other
Not
things
when it comes to public transport, but hey.
Especially compared
That's a
to
different
like
story.
London and
Yeah.
public transport.
I've talked about that enough on this show. I
Yes.
think people are getting annoyed with it. Cool, man. All right. Well, that's the show, everyone. Make sure you follow Josiah on YouTube for all the updates on what's happening in regards to cryptocurrency. But yeah, make sure you share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe. Cheers.